What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and Canada wins 5-0 against Czechia. Czechia! Woo! That's what I like to see. That's what I like to see. This is everything we've dreamed of when we talk about best on best men's Olympic hockey. This team is so deep. The depth isn't. Everybody's a first liner. Like, Crosby is your third line center. Any other team in the world, like any other NHL, he's number one. Most teams in this tournament, he's number one. And boy, did they look it. Boy, did they look like an unstoppable force in this game. Against Czechia, I expected closer. I'm going to be honest. I expected this game to be a lot closer. 5-0. Shots were kind of even throughout until the third period. We ended up outshooting them 36-26. You know, they kept with our pace, but we certainly outplayed them. Like, did they keep up? You know, this being played right after the women's game against Finland, very similar vibes. In the sense that in both of those games, I felt that Canada dominated. And the whole game, Canada played better. At the start of the game, the other team kind of kept pace, but they were still lagging behind. But they were at least sort of keeping up. And then as the game went on, the wheels just fell off. There was nothing you could do against the Canadian force of nature that is our hockey team. Celebrini with 5. The first period was, I think, Czechia's best opportunity to try and win it. To try and get that early goal, that greasy goal. Binnington had to play well. 26 shots, it's nothing to scoff at. Binnington played really well. He had to lock in, and he did. And he made the stops that you need him to make. And he made those stops. Wonderful. Excellent. Love to see it. So Binnington locked in. But I'm not going to sit here and act like the Stahl didn't also play really well in the first. He did. Czechs and Canada both couldn't score. I felt like we were the better team that period. That we looked a bit more dangerous. But when Czechia got an opportunity, it was a good opportunity, typically. And then with 5 seconds left in the period, Celebrini scores 1-0. Now, mind you, it looked like we made it 1-0 earlier. Nathan McKinnon scores a goal. It is a tripping call. I'm gonna be. I saw some people upset with it. That's a trip. That's a trip. Nick Suzuki. That's a trip. Is it a trip that affected the play? No, absolutely not. Irregardless of that trip, that puck was going in. That didn't affect the play. But I get it. You see a trip, you call a trip. Obviously, it isn't all that necessary, that goal. I mean, maybe if we end up losing this game by 1 or only winning by 1 and we're like, oh, that could have given us a bit more of a cushion, then maybe there's a bit more of a narrative around that goal that got called back. Don't worry, McKinnon got it right back later in the game anyway on a power play. The Czech power play did look good. Looked good. But this is Team Canada. We get the stops. And man, did we do a good job of killing that penalty. Again, both things can be true. Their power play can look good, and our penalty kill can look even better and have played even better. And that's what I think happened. They had a decent enough power play. It's a Canadian machine. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Second period, Mark Stone, wide open at the pass to Mark Stone, and he has got nothing but daylight. Just tap it in. Just tap it in. And he does. Boom. 2-0. Canada's leading. The second period is when I thought we started to really take control of the game. Where, the first period, we get that late goal to take a lead going into the intermission, which I can't stress enough how important that is for giving yourself momentum. The Czechs, 5 seconds away from going into the dressing room, not at 0 with Canada, really proving the point that, yeah, the Czechs can play with the big boys. And I think they did. Even though, yes, this was a pretty lopsided final score. I think for the most part, they proved they can keep up. And there are some other, big teams that I think that they would be able to take down. I mean, Slovakia beat Finland. And as of making this video, Finland just beat Sweden. So, who knows? Right? For all I know, we're going to see Czechs and the Czechs and the Slovaks in the quarterfinal or in the semifinal with Canada and Latvia, for all I know. Like that's the thing that's really wild. Of every game that's been played in the men's tournament so far, this is the most dominant win. Not Sweden and Italy, not the United States and Latvia. Canada, Czechia. That, of all those games, of all the first games, every team's played one game, of all those first games, this is the one game where you're like, oh, that should be really tight. That shouldn't be 5-0. That's the one game that shouldn't be 5-0. Sweden, Italy, that should be 5-0, right? Finland, Slovakia, that should be 5-0. It was 4-1 for Slovakia. This is the game where everyone would say, oh man, this is going to be tight. This is going to be a challenge. Canada made it look easy. This is our toughest opponent in the round robin. This is the opponent that's supposed, what are we going to do to the other teams? Now I would not be surprised if we win a game by 10. It wouldn't shock me if we do one of those oh my gosh, by the second period you're just begging your team to stop scoring. It is I think this game puts us in a really good spot to finish with the 1 seed. Because now we've got 2 games that should be relatively easier wins. And the US is in an easier division, right? Germany, Denmark, Latvia. Well, they only beat Latvia 5-1. We beat Czechia 5-0. Wow. And again, close to the end of the period-ish. 2.5 minutes left. Bo Horvat gets a breakaway. Okay, Horvat, I knew you had silky mitts. I didn't know you had that silky mitts. Bo Horvat scores 3-0, and now the game's done, right? That, I think, is when, even though, Czechia has a good team, and the Czechs are definitely a scary team, that is when I was able to kind of be like, okay, this game is done. What's going to happen? They're going to score 3 in the third. The way we were playing, I knew they weren't. I had the confidence that would be enough. But still, you got to play the game, and it's nice to see the team not let up. It's nice to see this team be like, game's not over. Especially when you're facing another good team. I've seen that, in the World Juniors, I'm not as confident. If we have a 3-0 lead going into the third against Czechia, I'm just waiting for the other foot to drop. I got this, especially Czechia. I had a knot in my stomach. Oh man, what's about to happen? And, they score 1 goal, they open the floodgates. And the opposite is also true. If Canada's going into the third down 3-0, I mean, I feel dread, but we score 1 goal and I'm like, oh yeah, we're cooking. Not the same here. You can see the experience. This is why I love best on best international hockey, because you get to see them with their hockey IQ as it is today. And let me be clear, that's one of the best things you can see in terms of growth. The hockey IQ of somebody in the U20, U18 tournaments, and somebody, who's a full-time NHLer and has been for the past 10 years, night and day. Not to say that the U20 players don't have incredible hockey IQ, they do, but being in the NHL gives you so much more opportunity to grow that and improve upon that. And you get to see that here. You get to see, the mentality of, let's be honest, a bunch of Stanley Cup champions. The guy who was barely able to make this team is the reigning Conn Smythe winner. He's the guy who we almost cut, who's only here because of an injury. The reigning Conn Smythe winner. That's our worst player. Who's our best player? The best player in the world. Who's our second best player? The second best player in the world. Who's our third best player? Oh, well, you see what I mean? It is so deep. And if you were wondering about the depth, we get a power play in the third. A power play that every Canadian has been dreaming of. We saw it in the Four Nations. We see it again here. Crosby to McDavid to McKinnon. That's just not fair. That's just not fair. McKinnon scores. It's 4-0. What do you do to that? What do you do when you see Cale Makar and Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon on the same line at the same time? On the power play, what do you do? How do you defend that? It's like the Shaquille O'Neal quote, I wouldn't. I'd just go home. You show, like when that power play comes on, what do you do? How do you stop that? How do you defend against that? How do you defend against arguably the top 3 players in the world on the ice at the same time? In Makar, McKinnon, and Crosby, there's an argument. There's an argument to be made there that those are the 3 best players in the world right now. They're playing at the same time for the same team. What do you do? What do you do? How do you stop that? You don't. You watch Crosby go to McDavid, go to McKinnon. Of all the forwards in the world, there's a very good argument to be made that all of them are in the top 5. I think certainly they're all in the top 10. Like, you just don't stop that. And then, cherry on top, Nick Suzuki gets a weird one, scores 5-0. I mean, Czechia didn't play terribly. We looked unstoppable today. You know, this is a nice change of pace from, you know, the women's team losing 5-0 to the U.S. And yes, I know other teams have been really good, but when you think of, like, the teams that could beat Canada in the tournament, Czechia's one of them in the men's tournament. Not quite as much one in the women's tournament. As of making it, it's now certainly not one. Because as of making this video, they've been eliminated. They lost in the quarters to Sweden. But, you know, Czechia beating Canada in the women's game would be an all-time upset. It would be huge. It would be the peak of Czech women's hockey. It would be the low point for Canadian women's hockey. In men's hockey, it would be just another game. The Czechs beating Canada in men's hockey, just another. Recently, I mean, if you watch the World Juniors, that's Tuesday. That's just what happens. But even, you know, in the Olympics, you know, I know they weren't invited to Four Nations. They should be. I think this game proves they can keep up. But in that context, Czechia is one of the teams where you're like, yeah, I can see them beating Canada. Right now, we are the favorite. I think this game just emboldens that notion that this is the favorite to win the tournament. And I think we're the favorite in the same way that the U.S. is the favorite to win the women's. This game, I think, has completely re-emboldened. Oh, this team came to win. They have one goal in mind. One track mind goal. I'm going to be honest. I think if we faced Latvia, it wouldn't have been 5-1. It would have been 10-0. I mean, we got games against opponents that I think we should be able to handle rather easily, if you will. I think we will. I think both of those games are probably going to be blowouts. I think we're going to be the 1 seed. And, I mean, with Finland and Sweden, that is going to get really interesting. Like I said, you know, I'm making this video the day after. So as of making this, Finland lost to Slovakia, beat Sweden. At this rate, maybe it will be Slovakia. Both games were 4-1. If Slovakia can pull off an upset against Sweden, or even just do well on goal differential, we might see Slovakia pull off an upset and win that whole division. Because now Finland has a loss. Sweden has a loss. Things could go well for Slovakia, who, might I add, they've improved, like, a lot. And they have a lot more players where I'm like, oh yeah, like, they're threats. It makes you wish that Chara, just a little bit younger, you know? Oh, would have been fun seeing Sikorsky and Chara at the same time. That would have been fun. But hey, you look at that, yeah, they took down Finland. Finland took down Sweden, and I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, oh, Canada would have wiped the board with all three of those teams. Like, this is the Czechs that we beat 5-0. I think we would have taken care of business against Slovakia. And looking at Sweden barely beat Italy. Italy? And they're supposed to beat us in the gold medal game? They're supposed to make it to the gold medal game? Finland lost to Slovakia. The U.S., yes, they won 5-1 against Latvia. They're, I think, the one team that I'm scared of. The U.S. And I think we win. I think we'd beat them. Now, that's why you play the tournament. This is the same thing for the Canadian women's team, right? Everyone thinks that the U.S. is going to beat us in the gold medal game. Everyone. But you play the game for a reason. You don't just give them the gold. You play the games. But right now, who's the tournament favorite? I think going in it was Canada, and I think after this game, it's just been solidified. Oh yeah, Canada's the favorite. Canada's the favorite. Whew. So next up is Switzerland. Let's see if their goaltender's made of Swiss cheese. Against Team Canada, I don't know a single goalie in the world who wouldn't be, because this team is loaded. And as always, go Canada, go!